Ladies and gentlemen, I just finished watching The Walking Dead Dead City Season 3, Episode 1. We're back, and you know what? We're back for a review of a Walking Dead spinoff. You know how I felt about the Walking Dead spinoffs, at least as of late. And this episode, believe it or not, I actually really liked. I'm surprised to say it, which is crazy. You guys know if you've watched my reviews, I was not a fan of Dead City Season 2. In the slightest. I shit on that show. And honestly, I think I shit on it for good reason. The show didn't feel like it warranted a show. Like, it didn't feel like it was worth it. Genuinely thought it was a really, really bad spin-off season. But this episode is actually, I think it feels like a step in the right-ish direction. I'm not going to say that this is the best episode of Dead City, or I'm not going to say that it's like, we're so back or anything like that. There are still things in there that I found pretty goofy, for sure. But all things considered, I don't think in the slightest this was a bad episode. I actually think this was a pretty good episode. I liked the new characters we got. I liked Renata and Louise, I think are their two names. I liked the story we got with the Croat. I did think some of the melodrama there between Maggie and Negan was a little corny, but also kind of good. I didn't mind it at all. I hope it doesn't hint towards the relationship shit, because we finally saw Maggie smile in this episode at Negan in a way, but I honestly don't think so. And after I saw Lauren Cohen talking about at San Diego's Comic-Con that they will never get together and stuff like that, she didn't say that word for word, but that the idea of it is gross. Like, I'm glad they addressed that, because that makes me feel like I can relax now. But I'm not just saying that because she said that now I'm like, oh, it's all good. No, Trillium, this episode was actually a pretty good episode. And it starts, honestly, in the very first shot of the episode. This season opens up with shots of New York City. And that is the one thing that I feel like was actually lacking from a show set in New York City last season. Yes, we had a couple moments intertwined and all of that stuff, but when it was announced last season that they were filming in, I think it was Boston or another city instead of New York City, in my head, I was like, I wonder if it's really going to feel like it. And I don't think season 2 did. All the shots of Central Park honestly didn't really feel like Central Park that much. Not that that's a big detail, but I think it actually set the season off in the right direction. Like, okay, this is a New York City story. We're telling it in New York City. Here's shots of the Empire State Building. Here's shots of Central Park. Here's shots of Times Square area. And even though it was clearly CG, it was cool. It added this like world building element, and I think that's where it starts. From what I understand, this season was from different creative team, a different showrunner, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember the exact name of the individual, but you could tell that this season is just in a different sort of state. But I'd be lying if I didn't say there were moments that were extremely cheesy in my head, like the moment where Hershel like blew the fuck up, which we actually find out is kind of interesting, but also corny later with the Dama. So there's that moment. There's moments with Maggie and Negan that are weird. But anyway, this episode follows the immediate aftermath of Ginny's death in season 2. And where we go from there, Maggie is burying Ginny somewhere, and Negan comes out and is like, hey, why are you burying Ginny? Like, that's my responsibility. Fuck you for that. And they get into this fight, which honestly, I'm not gonna lie, that is the one part of the episode. It almost felt like it was like forced or something in a certain way. I feel like it almost felt like it didn't have like the emotion behind it between Jeffrey Dean Morgan and Lauren Cohen. It seemed like they were just like reading lines. I'm going to be honest about it. That is my nitpick, and that's where the corniness comes in. It's like, damn, Maggie, why are you doing this? And Maggie's like, I had to. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't really feel like, it feels rigid, I guess. But honestly, that's probably my only complaint. There were moments in there that felt rigid like that, but Maggie and Negan, they had a good conversation where Negan is actually really pissed at Maggie for everything that's gone on. And he kind of, for once, like has that sort of upper hand in the conversation to be like, fuck you for everything you've done to me. You literally stabbed me in the back. Like, you literally stabbed me in the back. Like, fuck you. And what I liked about it is Maggie's actually trying her hardest to apologize because she does feel bad about it. So in doing so, she's like, stab me in the back. You know what I mean? And she like pulls up her shirt, like almost like I thought she was going to like moon him. I'm like, damn, like, are we really going in a different direction there? Anyway, no, she like pulls up her shirt and she's like, actually stab me in the back because I did it. Like, you could tell she genuinely feels bad and she's actually tired of fighting. And again, I'm all here for that if it's done in ways that don't disrespect the grounds that this show has been on. I'm not sitting here like a fucking librarian, like, you better not disrespect the material. That's not how I feel about it. I don't care like that. But I actually do care if it's something blatantly obvious that you shouldn't do for your story, like the two of them fucking. No, in no world should that be okay, because that disrespects the whole foundation of the show that we've had before it. But if they could be amicable, if they could work together and be friends and all of that stuff, I can't complain. I actually think from a drama perspective that is good. That's a good step in the right direction. Just don't take it over that boundary. You know what I mean? So I like that Maggie genuinely had this moment of apology in there. Then what I found really corny is as they're fighting, as Negan is about to stab Maggie, Renata and Louise, the new brother and sister duo, comes in, and Renata's actress, I can't remember her name, her actress's name offhand, but she was in Dexter. So I was like, oh shit. I was like, you know the thing. Like that. I thought that was pretty cool. But anyway, they come in because apparently they just heard while they're roaming through Central Park, they just heard someone say the name Negan, and apparently that's Negan. I thought that was really goofy, but the whole setup was like the two of them are going to take Maggie and Negan captive so that, what am I saying? So that they could bring them to the Dama to get the methane, because apparently Louise and Renata's it's like the brother's daughter, whatever it is. She's having the baby. Now, the one thing I will say I didn't really understand about that is I thought I heard them say in the beginning of this episode that the baby wasn't due for like 2 months, but at the end of this episode, Maggie and Hershel are delivering the baby. Like, it's moments like that where I can't say this is the best episode of Dead City because it still has those weird things in there, like Maggie and Hershel helping to deliver a baby. What the fuck was that? That was really weird. But it's still, the story was good. So anyway, after this, they take Renata and Louise take Maggie and Negan hostage, and they start walking through the city so that they could give them up so that they could save this baby. And as they do, of course, conveniently, Hershel just shows up, and right when he does, he blows the fuck up. I was sitting there like, what the fuck? And I know this was a teaser that came out in it, but it was just funny the way it was. Dude got fucking murked. He just got rocked. And apparently, we learn at the end of this episode that apparently all of Midtown got rocked too, even though it didn't look like that serious. I know it was this big thing, whatever. Anyway, after the bomb goes off, we cut to the opening credits, whatever, yada yada. Then we cut back. Maggie and Negan somehow survive, just like everyone does, because even the Dama was like, if anyone's even still alive, like there are people still out there, whatever, at the end of this episode, whatever. Maggie and Negan miraculously survive this, and so do all of them, even though Hershel got murked. They go down into this like bunker basement area. I guess they fell through one of those like not manhole, but like things in New York City, the cheese grater looking, I don't fucking know what you call it, where the doors where people store their shit from restaurants, whatever. They fall into one of those, I guess, and they bunker up down there while Renata and Louise are up top. And as they're up top, like fighting off the walkers that came from the explosion, the Croat just shows up and like tackles a walker. And he's like, ah! Like, what the fuck? That's where, again, I think it's like, look, again, we got to get our characters in a place. We got to get the story in motion. And the way you get the story in motion is to like bring them all together. But it's cheesy when like Hershel shows up, then the Croat shows up, then they're all fighting together. That's where the show, I think, loses it for me. It's like, there's no immersion in that. They just all pop up in the same place all the fucking time, conveniently. Whatever. Anyway, that's my nitpick. Whatever. So they're all up there. The Croat, Renata, Louise, Hershel's still murked on the ground or whatever. But it's revealed that Renata and Louise have a history with the Croat because the Croat killed one of the doctor people who is Louise's brother. It's a whole I will get to it in a second, but they go up to him angrily about to kill him, like, where's the methane? What the fuck? All this stuff. And Croat's like, I blew up the methane. And it's revealed that he got carled, where he got bit on the stomach. So he's bitten, and the character dies in the first episode, which I know some people were expecting, but I actually liked the Croat, so I'm a little disappointed by that, to be honest. But he was still nice. I actually thought his death in this episode was pretty good. I enjoyed that about it. But anyway, they go up to him, knife point, like, where's the methane? Where are the others? Eat me! You know what I mean? That's what it felt like. And so they essentially, Renata comes over to Louise, who's like about to kill the Croat, and she's like, no, not now, we need him. So they like bring him, and they, I guess, hunker down wherever Maggie and Negan were, and then it's a big reunion of all of them together, and Croat does this whole thing where he's like, Negan! Again, which was one of the funny things from the first season. Anyway, so they're all together and they're all going over this plan. Then it cuts to 4 months earlier where the Croat kills Louise's brother, like I mentioned. It was actually an interesting scene because it showed that the Croat was using the same sort of tactics that Negan used, doing the whole eeny, meeny, miny, mo things, killing the right person. I actually enjoyed that. I thought it was pretty good. It was a nice flashback sort of thing to set up the story. And then we cut back to them. That was a chunk of the episode, honestly, but then we cut back to them. I'm not going to spend too much time on it because it's kind of irrelevant. They're all together down there, and Louise is explaining that they need to get an incubator to keep the baby alive because that's the last thing they have going for him. But with the methane out, they need to find methane. And the Croat reveals as he's dying, basically, that there is one more methane tank after all the rest have blown up. There's one more left. It's a prototype, and only he knows where it is. And along with it are the plans to the secret formula. That's exactly what it was. But he's like, you just have to keep me alive, like, and take me there. That'll be like my one last dying wish. In a way, he actually says it not like in a sly way. Like, it seems like he actually genuinely is like, I would like to lead you there and that be the last thing I do. So I could get behind that. I always actually kind of liked the Croat. Anyway, whatever. So the whole drama down there is that Negan is pissed at Maggie still, so he doesn't want to help, but Maggie's open to it. Hershel's really open to it. So Maggie and Hershel agree to help Louise and Renata and the Croat get to where the Croat has this secret formula. And that's decided, but then Maggie goes to try to find Negan. Negan makes his way up to a bar to go drink. And this is actually, I think, my favorite part of the episode, and something I'm surprised by is Dillard. So, for those of you who don't know, and the actor's name is escaping me, but Dillard plays Liam McPoyle in Always Sunny, and I find it a funny, interesting parallel that Dillard is playing kind of a crazy dude who runs a bar, but also runs like an ecosystem above his bar in the apartment. I love it, and honestly, it's a funny parallel because now he's running a bar, Always Sunny, blah, 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 all that stuff. It's like Liam McPoyle started the apocalypse. And it's not, I don't know. But honestly, I love his actor. And I do think Dillard was actually hilarious for the first time ever in an episode of The Walking Dead, period. Like in any episode of The Walking Dead. I actually thought this episode was really funny. There were moments in there that I genuinely laughed at, and I've never laughed at The Walking Dead once, like literally ever. There was a moment specifically where Dillard is talking to one of the walkers who is chained up to the bar. So for context, Dillard keeps walkers chained in the bar, but he takes the nails off of them, he takes the teeth out of them, and they're basically just like facades in this bar that are still alive, and he kind of acts like they're his friends, which is funny. So like he'll have conversations with them and they'll just be going like whatever the fuck they do, and he's like, right. Oh, so that's what happened with Lacey. I thought that was pretty funny, but the funnier moment is when Negan actually does come up and they introduce each other. They're all sitting at the bar and one of the walkers is like yapping away, making the sound they always do. And Dillard's like, this one's got a mouth on him. This is like something like that. And it was actually genuinely funny. But more or less why I think this is my favorite element of the episode and just in general is I actually think the camaraderie between Dillard and Negan is really strong. Those two characters just automatically in one scene that they were in worked like really well together, and they were funny and they bounced off of each other in a way that I actually liked and I want to explore more of, to the point where sometimes I really do think, and I know Scott Gimple just said this the other day, that it's really hard to write an original character. Honestly, original characters like Dillard, original characters like Okafor, like Nat from The Ones Who Lives, those are stories that I'd be interested in following. Dillard's is a story that I'd be interested in following a little bit more. Like, I think there's room, not that they would ever do this, and not that I really want them to do it, but I do think if they were to ever like explore one-off stories, if they were to ever do a Tales of the Walking Dead 2, like season 2 again, I'd love to see a one-off story of Dillard's survival. I'd like to see a one-off with Okafor. You know what I mean? Those are the things that I'd be really interested in. Dillard fits that really well. They have this sort of camaraderie that I enjoyed. He's funny, and he's like cool too, in an interesting way, even though he's been alone this whole time or whatever. He brings Negan upstairs and he reveals he has like one room where all the walkers like start rotting, so the maggots eat him. Then he brings them over to another room where the frogs eat the maggots, and then the next room over, the chickens or something eat the frog. There's an interesting way to say he has like a whole like system here. He's like farming upstairs, which is really interesting. And that's how he stayed alive in this place and never decided to leave or anything like that this whole time. I liked that. I thought that was cool. That's world building that I enjoy when this show does or shows do. I enjoyed that, and I hope we get a little bit more of that this season. So there was that. They have this whole moment, but Maggie is like, you know what? I do need Negan to come help me if I'm going to help the two of them get to where the Croat has his methane stored. So Maggie comes upstairs, finds this bar, and is like, what the fuck is going on? And Maggie goes on this whole thing like saying, I need you, Negan. It was meant to be this whole like big moment, like, oh, I need you, all this stuff. But it was good. I liked it. I mean, I like that direction where they work together and they know their places when they do work together. So I'm not complaining about that. They do sell the cheesiness of it a little bit too much with the dramatic music and shit like that. Like, I don't think we need it. I think we do genuinely understand Maggie does need Negan, and she doesn't want to be angry anymore. We've heard this time and time again. So I don't mind it, but it is like, you cut the dramatics a little. I don't give a fuck about the dramatic. Cut them a little bit. You know what I mean? So anyway, Negan then is like, I'll do this one last thing for you and all this stuff. So then Negan comes along with them to bring Louise and Renata to where the Croat has this last tank stored. Turns out he wasn't lying. The whole time the Croat is actually dying. I thought the whole time they were going to pull a fast one. He's going to be like, aha, I'm not dead. But no, he's actually dead. So he dies in this episode, which, again, I'm a little disappointed in because all things considered, I think he was a big contributing factor to why I didn't like season 2. But I actually do like the Croat, and I like his actor. So I'm torn. Like, we're losing a cast member that I thoroughly enjoyed in a way that feels like anticlimactic, I guess is the way I put it. It's very there's no ceremony to it. He just kind of dies in the first episode and is like, fuck off, he's gone. So whatever. I'm not going to like nitpick or complain too much about that, but I would be lying if I said I wasn't at least a little bit disappointed that we lost him in this episode. But I do like that towards the end, he didn't redeem himself at all, but like he kind of went out in a way where you're like, yeah, I kind of understand this dude. Like, I kind of understand why he became the way he did. He followed a guy who thought led well, and like he has, you know what I mean? Like, I kind of did understand the Croat, all things considered. So yeah, I'm okay with him dying, but I am a little disappointed in it. But he wasn't lying. There was one last methane tank, and there was the, I guess, recipe to restore Manhattan with all the methane tanks. So after they take it, they go to the hospital, which again, I'm a little confused on because I thought I heard them say, they probably didn't, but I thought I heard them say that the baby wasn't due for like 2 more months or something like that. But then we got to them literally giving birth to the baby. Anyway, they bring in the incubator to the hospital and they bring the methane. But it turns out that Louise's brother, who the Croat had slit his throat like earlier in the episode, the 4 months earlier flashback we got, he's still kept as a walker. So Louise has to use him to put him in the methane tank, which is pretty interesting. So essentially, because that was his son, like the one who died, the one that was his son. So essentially, he did one last act to save. Oh, am I saying his son? I don't even know if it's a boy or girl. Whatever. Anyway, his one last like saving act as someone who existed was to like essentially power the thing that would keep the kid alive. You know what I mean? It was actually a nice moment. The one thing I thought was really fucking goofy about it, though, to be completely honest, was the concept that Maggie and Hershel were delivering the fucking baby? I didn't understand that. There was the one thing I was like, what the fuck? I was genuinely very like, what the fuck? And even though I get it, we're in a survival sort of place. There's only a few people, but of all the other people that were in the hospital in the party after, you picked the two people you just met, who originally you were going to take captive. Those are going to be in the room with you delivering the baby? That was really fucking stupid. I'm not going to lie. That was like really stupid. It didn't make any sense when you have a whole hospital community, because at the end, after the baby's born and they're all celebrating, there's like 50 fucking people in this hospital. They're all chilling and celebrating. These people have known this girl who gave birth way longer. Why are we now doing that? That made no sense. That made no sense. I thought it was so goofy. I know I'm supposed to turn my brain off when I watch this show, but that was genuinely goofy. Anyway, after the celebrating happens, after all of that takes place, Maggie, I guess, is like a little drunk or whatever. So she goes to Negan to thank him, and they have this like nice moment. And it did teeter a little bit on flirtatiousness. Like there was a little bit of flirtiness in there. But like, it really does feel like a will they, won't they sort of thing, because Maggie's all happy. She's thanking him up and down, like you're free from me, like you could do what you want, like all this stuff. And Negan's like, I was never really going to stab you and all this stuff. And Maggie actually like smiles like a kitty smile to Negan. And he's like, that's the first time I've ever seen you smile. I like that. Like, you should do that more. All of that stuff. It was a nice moment. But again, there was that underlying thing in there, even though I don't think they're going to do it, where I'm like, are they going to fuck? Is that happening? But I'm glad it, so far, at least, has not gone that way. But it's revealed that Negan is going to go back to Dillard, which I like, because I want to see more of Dillard. I really liked that character. And Maggie is now thinking of actually staying in New York City instead of staying with the Bricks. So whatever's going on with the Bricks are just like, where the fuck is Maggie? You know what I mean? But anyway, whatever, that all happens. So yeah, that's kind of where it ends. And then there's a cutaway scene to the Dama, who is talking to the two guys from the beginning of this episode who put up the Help Wanted Maggie and Negan posters and all that shit. And the Dama's like, we need to find more people. More people survive these blasts. And we need to do it again and again, because Maggie and Negan are gonna die. I fucking hate that shit. Just get rid of the Dama. Honestly, just get rid of that story. I'm not interested in that story. I kind of like the exploration of restoring New York City without this like Scooby-Doo villain-esque shit we got going on behind the scenes. I do hope they get rid of the Dama early for that reason. I didn't even mention that Hershel's no longer with the Dama, at least to what we know now. He apologized to Maggie and actually is like, the Dama told me to kill you, but I don't want to do that. It made me think of all you've done for me. I liked all of that. But yeah. Those are my thoughts on the episode. There were very goofy, cheesy moments in it, but I'm not going to sit here and say this was bad. I actually wouldn't say this is anywhere close to bad. If I'm being honest, this is one of the better episodes of Dead City. I can't really think of any that I'm like, oh, that was a great episode. So maybe this is the best. I don't know that I want to say that, though, but it's in the conversation of being one of the better ones of the show, for sure. And again, that's not saying much, because I really hated Season 2. Season 1 was good. Season 2 was not good. This episode was better. This was a step in the right direction. I genuinely do think so. So if this momentum continues, I think actually this season might be in a pretty good spot. And if the early reviews are any indication, which usually they're not for The Walking Dead, because I feel like they always do kind of like pander to that show and they're like really overly enthusiastic about it. But if the early reviews are one thing to go off of, I actually do think this is going to be a good episode. I feel like I just got stung by a bee or something. Something just bit me. That didn't feel good. Whatever. Anyway, this is one of the bad things about when I'm in this vacation town. It's one of the bad things, is I have to film here, but is it really a bad thing? Because look at this view. It's gorgeous here. Anyway, whatever. I can't say this was a bad episode. I think this is a step in the right direction, but I would definitely like to hear from you. Do you agree with me? Are you in the same sort of boat? Where do you stand on it? I'd love to hear from you. And with all that out of the way, thank you again so much for watching this video, and until the next one, I'll talk to you later. Peace out.